Welcome to our 9-minute tour of QuerySurge. When you log into QuerySurge, the big data and data warehouse testing tool, you come to our widget dashboard. Each of the widgets is designed to show you a different slice of your project and to give each user a view of exactly what the team is accomplishing. The widget in the upper left, the QuerySurge launcher, gives us access to the QuerySurge workflow. We can go in and see the design library from here, the scheduling view, the run dashboard, and the reporting view. And in addition to that, of course, we can get into administration for creating users and connections. Let's go into the design library. I'm going to choose to look at a couple of different types of samples that we've got in our design library. These are, as you can see from the folder name, Netezza and Oracle tests. And what you can see on the source side is we've got a query against Netezza, and on the target side, a query against Oracle. So we're testing data between these two systems in our architecture in this query pair, our name for a test. It's important to stress that in QuerySurge, the terms source and target, Netezza being on the source side here, Oracle being on the target side, are completely arbitrary. They're assigned by the user. You can choose any technology in QuerySurge to be your source or any technology to be your target. You can see in our instance here we've got a whole range of different technologies set up, from relatively standard technologies like Excel sheets and flat files to Hadoop, to Netezza, Oracle, SQL Server, Teradata, Vertica, you name it. Anything that's JDBC compliant can be set up with QuerySurge. Let's look at some other technology combinations. In these examples, we've got Teradata going against Oracle with Teradata on the source and Oracle on the target. Here, we've got Vertica on the source side and Teradata going against the target. So you can have any combination, any order, any technology. Let's look at some flat file examples. Here we've got a flat file going against an Oracle query. Flat file on the source, Oracle on the target. The interesting thing about this particular example is that on our flat file, we're issuing a regular SQL call. We can do this because QuerySurge distributes with a JDBC driver that makes your flat files look like database tables to QuerySurge. So you can use a nice, rich SQL vocabulary to pull your data in from your flat file just the same way you can from a database. Let's look at some Hadoop samples. We've got some query pairs here that go between Hadoop through the Hive layer on the source side and Oracle on the target side. And you can see we write completely normal HQL on the source side and completely normal Oracle/PL SQL on the target side, because we can use the full syntax of any technology that we're connected to. Now, I did exaggerate when I just said that on the source side we are using normal HQL, because we've got actually a little bit of unusual syntax on the source side, and that's a QuerySurge feature called our reusable query snippet feature. And you can put reusable snippets, that is reusable pieces of SQL, into a snippet and use them in as many queries as you want to. If you want to see the whole query unfolded before you, all you have to do is click on our query view and you can see exactly what the query will look like. Just a final note on query pairs. If you're wondering if QuerySurge can work with internationalized data, let me just go over to this design time run and show you that we most certainly can. So you can see in this example that we've got a number of different kinds of data in different character sets here. QuerySurge pulls these out of the databases involved, and it works just like any data. Let's move on to our scheduling view. In scheduling, we have a couple of new terms to introduce. The first one is the idea of a suite. And a suite is simply a collection of query pairs for purposes of execution. So as you can see on the far right of this page, we've got our query pair library. I can just drag in as many folders as I want to of query pairs and create a suite. And I'm ready to run. If I want to just do a one-off run, I can run my suite now. However, if I want to schedule it, I can use a scenario. And a scenario is for scheduling up collections of suites. I can put whatever suites together I want to in my scenario. I can let them run now, or I can schedule them to run at specific times. I'll just mention parenthetically that we have, in addition to this calendar-based scheduling, an option for scheduling by external events through QuerySurge's execution API. So any tool that can talk to QuerySurge's API, which is through the command line, can drive QuerySurge. Common uses are from a scheduling tool, or from a continuous integration tool, or from your ETL tool. Let's save this to kick it off now and go over to our Runtime dashboard to watch our scenario run. We can go in and look at our data as soon as it's available. And of course, more than likely, we're going to be interested in seeing our source data, our target data. We can see our source and target queries, and of course the failures. This is the comparison between the source and target. And what we can see here is that we've got a stacked view of our failures where source and target rows are stacked one on top of the other, or a side-by-side view where source is on the left, target is on the right. I've got a special scenario prepared here just to show you different kinds of conditions that QuerySurge traps. And one of the standard conditions that QuerySurge looks at, of course, is data differences. In this example here that we're looking at, what we're going to see is that in the upper right of this display, QuerySurge brought back about 6,500 rows from both source and target. And using a shared key between the two, QuerySurge discovered that 7 of those rows had the same key but had different data. And of course, now we can start our investigation to figure out why the data might be different. Now we've got another significant condition that QuerySurge is sensitive to, and it's important to focus on when you're testing. And that's when different result sets have different row counts. As you can see in the upper right here, the source row count had 5 more rows in it than the target row count. Now QuerySurge again has used keys to determine that these excess rows on the source have no matching key on the target, and therefore they're labeled with the yellow flag as non-matching rows. They're unique to source, and so now again we can start as practitioners our investigation of this potential data issue. Let's take a quick look at some reporting features of QuerySurge, and that'll end our tour. I'm going to open up our scenario detail report, which will allow us to get a view of some of the smart reporting in QuerySurge that gives us both a high-level and a low-level view of what occurred during a scenario outcome. So if you look at this scenario detail report that I just generated, you can see a standard report of test results at the beginning, 27 query pairs run, and a 92% pass rate. The pass rate is calculated on query pairs, a normal test pass rate. And in addition to that, we give you overview metrics which flesh out our view of what exactly happened during this execution. So for example, you can see the speed with which everything ran, a little under 32 seconds here. QuerySurge counts verifications. If you think of each of your source and target result sets as being a table where cell 1.1 on source is compared to cell 1.1 on target, cell 2.1 on source to cell 2.1 on target, we can count all of those verifications up. In this case, we had a little north of 258,000 verifications. Of course, we also count data failures, a little more than 3,000. So in this example, we've calculated the data reliability, a metric that tells us how much data came back comparing favorably. So almost 99% of our data in this example came back comparing favorably. Let's go on from the summary portion of this report and look at the detail portion. And as you can see, all of the query pairs that executed are listed along with metrics for each of those query pairs. And in addition to that, if we're interested in going in and seeing what the underlying data looks like for any of these query pairs, of course especially ones that fail, all we have to do is click on those query pairs and we go right into the data and we can see what the underlying data looks like. So with just a handful of clicks, we can immediately go in and go straight to our mismatches and try to figure out what happened with those mismatches. Well, that's it for our tour. If you have any questions, come give us a visit at QuerySurge.com.